an update on the situation involving nuclear power plants in Nebraska and the threat posed by floodwaters up there. A fairly dramatic development in the news today in that situation, and Scott Portline will be here to with his take on the story. Welcome back to Coast. I'm George Knapp. Glad you're spending your time with us. An update on the flooding situation in the Midwest. North Dakota floodwaters have calmed a bit, according to the latest reports, but in Nebraska, it still looks touch and go, especially when you consider the stories floating around about nuclear power plants up there. Someone who has followed nuclear power safety issues ever since the 3 Mile Island incident many, many years ago, and who has appeared on this program in the past is Scott Portline. Scott, are you there?
Yes, I am, and it's a true honor to talk with you, George.
Well, thanks for coming on to speak with us. Let's get the update. A lot of rumors and wild stories floating around about those nuke plants that sit near the Missouri River. Stories about clampdowns on reporting and information that something dire may have happened. How acute is bring us up to date on what happened today, first of all, with these floodwaters.
Okay, well, today there was another event at the Fort Calhoun nuclear plant in Nebraska where the aqua berm, which is about a half mile long, collapsed. It was punctured by the workers there accidentally. The aqua berm was put in place in addition to the NRC-required floodproofing to help hold back the water from entering some of the important buildings and the electrical switchgear and so forth. It's a big tube, about 8 feet tall, 16 feet wide, and they fill it with water. A lot of people think it's filled with air, but that would allow it to just float right away. This is filled with water, and somehow in the course of last evening, just about 24 hours ago exactly now, one of the workers using a piece of equipment somehow punctured that and let all the water out. So they're currently looking at a way to see if they can patch that and if it's worth doing. But it allowed 2 feet of the Missouri River to flow into or surround some of the important buildings and approach the electrical transformer which they rely on for their off-site power. So at that point, they once again switched over to their emergency electrical diesel generators, and they had to do that on June the 7th when there was a fire in the switchgear. So this is the second time they've had to rely on their own power generation from the emergency generators.
In the story I read from CNN, it said the power company officials or executives are saying that danger of flooding the containment area is zero, that they've got all kinds of other kind of backup systems and sandbags and things of that sort. How acute is the danger? Is it something above zero?
Well, the main concern will be the loss of electricity and fires that could result if there's an electrical short. I'm not too worried about the core, the reactor itself at Fort Calhoun, because that's been shut down since April. And although it is in a more vulnerable condition without the reactor head on top, that's opened up now for the fuel transfers that takes place. The fuel is in a cold shutdown state, so it would take an extraordinary event like an explosion to rearrange that fuel into a configuration to allow it to heat up again. But I am concerned about the spent fuel pool, and the problem is that if you lose electricity, then you have to rely on the backup emergency diesel generators, which are somewhat faulty. They've been notorious for failing at times. And what would happen, it would take about 3.5 days, however, for the spent fuel pool water level to go low enough due to overheating, boiling away slowly.
Well, let me ask it this way, Scott. If you had family, if you had loved ones living in the vicinity of that plant, would you tell them to get the heck out of there?
No, not at this point. I'd be telling them you check the news every couple hours. I really don't expect there to be an accident there, but I do think that it's being tested. And we're finding out that some of the defenses that these plants claim to have put in place wasn't actually factual. They found lots of problems last year with the flood protection at Fort Calhoun where it wouldn't have stood up during what's happening right now. And in addition to that, we're seeing reports that the expected high levels of flooding all across the nation with the global warming or whatever is causing this trend exceeds many of the nuclear power plants, including the one in my backyard, 3 Mile Island.
Tell me this, the power companies, I know in earlier stories that I read, they put up this rumor control center. We're going to fight back against all the wild stories and rumors that are flying around about dangers that are up here. Yet it doesn't look like they've been all that forthcoming about what has gone on at their facilities. Am I misreading that?
No, you're exactly right. They're partly to blame. The rumors get started because people don't know how to interpret some of their documents, aren't familiar with their vernacular, and then some people, I think, just like to be the first to say something's going to happen, and then that causes undue alarm with a lot of people. And so I was on this program about 10 days ago trying to fight some of those rumors. But an interesting thing to show you how poorly worded some of the NRC documents, the last line of a press release from the Nuclear Regulatory Commission issued about the rumors was, "Controlling the rumors has been as difficult as combating the rising flood levels."
Yeah, they need a new PR firm there. Scott Portzline, thanks for coming on and giving us that update. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.